All right, everyone. So we're going to continue here. Now we're going to look at our protein. So this will kind of be the last main macronutrient that we're going to look at. So in previous videos, we've looked at carbohydrates and we've looked at lipids and fats. So now we're going to look at proteins. So you've talked about proteins before in previous lectures. We've probably talked about them in this course as well. And so know that proteins, they're building blocks, they're monomers, right, are amino acids. So proteins themselves are a polymer, just like carbohydrates, and then the polymers are made up of individual monomers. So in this case, it's all of these amino acids, and we've got about 20 different kinds of amino acids, and you can divide or categorize or differentiate amino acids based on whether or not we can produce them in the body or in the liver, or if we need to get them from our food. So if we need to consume them in our daily diet, right? So these are called essential and non-essential. So essential, think of it as it is essential for you to get it in your diet. Okay. Non-essential, you don't need to get it in your diet. You produce it in your body. So don't think that non-essential means you don't need it. It just means you don't need it from your diet because you produce it in your own body, right? And then these ones called conditionally essential. These are non-essential amino acids made from essential amino acids that are limited in the diet. But our main categories that we're going to talk about are essential and non-essential. So if we focus here on the essential amino acids, so the 9, so you can see these here on the left, so you can count through these here. These essential amino acids we get in our diet. The type of protein source that provides us with these essential amino acids can also be described, right? So these are called complete and incomplete proteins, right? So very straightforward. A complete protein gives you all of the essential amino acids, and an incomplete protein does not give you all 9. Maybe it gives you 6, or maybe it gives you 3, or maybe it gives you 8. It just does not give you all 9 of those essential amino acids. Okay. So for the complete proteins, these again they give you all 9. These are typically from animal sources. Okay. These are usually from animal sources. Incomplete proteins that don't give you all 9 of those essential amino acids, those are usually from non-animal sources. Okay. So think about that when you're thinking about what protein source you're consuming in your diet and whether or not that is likely to give you all of those essential amino acids, all 9, or if it's likely to give you maybe 4, 5, 6, something like that. Okay. So you will certainly remember this chart here. You have some flashbacks as soon as you saw this chart, probably to talking about protein synthesis, right? So remember, one big context in which we've discussed proteins in the past has been protein synthesis, right? So using our DNA to make RNA and then using the RNA to make protein, right? So that was called the central dogma of biology, and DNA to RNA, that's transcription, RNA to protein, that is translation, right? And so each set of 3 bases on the RNA codes for a particular amino acid, right? So all of those amino acids that we looked at here, right, these are coded for by these particular sets of codons, right? So remember, a codon is a set of 3 bases. So each of those sets of 3 bases is one codon. Those are going to code for, that's where we get the term codon, they're going to code for an amino acid, right? Now what you notice on this codon chart here, this genetic code, and you've talked about this whenever you did protein synthesis, is that most of our amino acids are coded for by more than one codon, right? So meaning if we accidentally make a mistake in the copying of our DNA, or if we make a mistake in reading our RNA, or whenever we lay down our RNA bases from DNA, we accidentally put down a U instead of an A, something like that, you may end up with the same amino acid and therefore end up with the same protein, right? So in that case, we have some redundancy in this system, right? So almost think of it as like a fail-safe. So if we're trying to do, arginine or something, and we put in CGU, but we meant to put in CGA, well, it doesn't matter because both of those, CGU and CGA, end up with the same amino acid, right? So that's true for some, it's not true for all, right? So if you look at some of these up here, if we look at some of these with related to our stop codon, you could accidentally put in, an A instead of a U, and instead of getting tyrosine, you now have a stop codon, and so the process stops, right? So they're not all what are called silent mutations. They're not all inconsequential. Some of them are, and many mutations are. Many of them are net neutral. They don't have a major effect on the body. But you can see that and you can appreciate that by looking at the codon chart here, right? And so again, these are some functions of proteins. Again, many of them we've talked about in previous lectures, whether it be these sets of lectures, whether it be past ones. So enzymes, remember enzymes ending in ACE, structural components of hair, skin, nails, ligaments, tendons, so think collagen in that case. Hormones, so think all the way back to our endocrine system days. We've talked about water-soluble hormones and fat-soluble hormones. The water-soluble hormones were typically made from amino acids, transporting things in the body. So think albumin, right? Albumin's also functioning with this function down here, helping maintain fluid balance between blood and tissue. So that protein is exerting that osmotic oncotic pressure. Think of your antibodies from our immune system lecture. Think of your muscle myofilaments, your actin and your myosin, right? All of these are proteins. Proton pumps, membrane pumps, channels, ion channels, all of these, they're all proteins, right? So proteins are ubiquitous in the body, meaning they're everywhere, right? And they do all kinds of different functions. And most certainly, if you did not have proteins, you would not live, right? So whenever we talk about cellular respiration in a few lectures, we'll talk about different types of proteins and enzymes, and you absolutely have to have those in order to live, essentially, right? So we'll stop here for proteins, relatively short part, and then we'll pick up and we'll begin looking at vitamins, minerals, and then we'll get into talking about things like calories, weight, obesity, BMI, and other related topics.